Hello and welcome developers. My name is Shay and this is another episode of Shay Develops. Today we're going to be starting our first video on this, probably going to be a three-part series where we are going to create a form in JavaFX. We're going to create the form, we're going to send the data, or at least get the data back from the user input, and we're going to go over validation. But part one, it would be this video here, and we are just going to create our form, getting it to display to the screen and allow us to input data. So we're actually going to be building quite a bit, though. We're going to be going over most, if not all, of the input types that we have with the JavaFX and how to play around with those a little bit. So for starters, though, I'm going to go over here to the main and make mine a little bigger, probably like 900 by 600. We'll start with that, and then we'll change this. We're going to refactor it to, I'll just put user form and then refactor that. You'll notice that up here, this also, the file that it was actually attached to, it has actually changed as well to user form. Alright, so if you guys have been following along though with my JavaFX tutorials, you may have watched the video on CSS, and in that video I uploaded a style sheet using this attribute right here. But there's actually another way to do that. I just want to show you guys that real quick before we get too any further along than what we are now. But you can actually create or use the style sheets element, and then use a URL, and then give it a value. We just make sure that you are importing the java.net. So value, and then we'll use the at css/form.css, and then I need to go over here to my project and actually make that. So right here in my sample directory, I'm going to create a new package. I'm going to call it CSS, and then within it I'm going to create a new Java class, and we're going to call it, oh sorry, not a Java class, just a new file, and we're going to call it form.css. And just to make sure it works, we can do something like grid pane, and we'll do -fx background color, and we'll just make that blue. And then I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we should have once it finishes building. No, we actually have an error. Okay. Why do we oh, it's because this says fx value. We just want that to say value. All right, run that again. And here we go. So we got a blue hello world background. Just wanted to show you guys that, though. I'm going to go ahead and take all this out here for now. I may add some CSS in a later video, but we're probably not going to get into that in this video. Alright, so let's go ahead, and we're going to be using a grid pane. So if you haven't watched the video on grid pane, you probably don't necessarily have to, but you can if you'd like to, and come back to this video after that. But that's what we're going to be using. But to start, though, we're going to be using a H-box. It's a horizontal box. This is a way just to put stuff in a horizontally across your view. And by view, I just mean your whenever you run the program and that box that pops up. This right here, this is the view that I'm talking about. So we have our H-box, and we're going to give it a grid pane column index of 0. And a grid pane row index of 0 as well. And then we're also going to, well, for now we're just going to leave it at that, and we'll add a label, text, and we'll say please fill out some information about yourself. and we're actually going to give it an ID of label heading. And then we are going to actually add a little bit of CSS. We'll do label heading. Do fx-font size, and we'll do something like 24 pixels. All right. And that should work. Not going to run this quite yet, but you guys can if you want to, if you're following along. We're going to go ahead and create our first label. And we text equals name, and then of course we need to set a column index of 0 and then a row index of 1, because we're moving down to the next row. So this is going to be on our first row, and this is going to be within the same column but down to the next row. So we're going to keep moving down the rows, and sometimes we're going to move over columns too, depending on how much room these things take up. So we have our label there, and then we're going to have our text field, so that way the user can input data. And we're going to set our column index. Again, it's going to be 0, but our row index is now going to be 2. And let's go ahead and run this to make sure this is working as we expected. Alright, so far so good. We can type in some information here and everything's working as intended. And we're going to move on to the next one. So we're going to have we're going to do a date picker on with this next input. So we're going to do label, text, birthday, and we'll do column index of, this time we're going to move it over a column, and then our row index is going to stay the same because we're going to keep it across this one across the same row. So we're going to use the date picker, and then we're going to give it the column index of 1 and a row index of 2, because we're keeping it in line with this here text field there. So if we go ahead and run this now, you notice that we have this date picker that we can select. We can come over here and select a date, and then it outputs right here to the screen that we can come and change it, change the year, that kind of stuff, right? So that's working pretty good. All right, the next thing we are going to want to do is do a color picker. So we're going to do label, text, favorite color, and again we're going to do the column and the row indexes. So for the column index, again, this one's going to be 2 because we're going to keep it these few on the same line, and then our row index will also be 1. And then for the color picker itself, got the color picker, we're going to the column index of 2 and the row index of 2 as well. All right, run that again, making sure everything's working as intended. And there we go. So now we can come over here, we can select our favorite color, and it'll change based off of the information that we put in. All right, so one thing though I want to come up here and do that I didn't do before is I want to change this, because whenever we, oh, I didn't mean to put that in there. Because whenever we were running this, I'm going to run it again real quick just to show you. We're getting this really long name input field, and I don't necessarily want that. So a way to fix that, and that's just because that row, the longest piece of information is that in that row is this: please fill out the form and information about yourself. Heading that we've created here, but the reason this is doing that is because that is so long, we've made it so big. So in order to get around that, we can actually do grid pane that column span, and we can set that to 3. Now running this should have that fixed. So we now have it much smaller. We have a name, birthday, and our favorite color. All right, let's quickly move on to the next bit. I'm trying to make this video as fast as possible because forms are, fairly easy as far as like creating the input fields and stuff like that. Getting the data and validating the data was where things can get, a little bit more difficult. And then we'll have videos on that coming up shortly. All right, so let's do another label. We'll do text. What is your favorite animal? And again, we'll do a column index and a row index. And we're going to set those, so here we're back to 0 again on our column. And our row index, so we're moving down the line, so we'll now be at 3. And for this one, we're going to be using a choice box, which is allow us to select an item based off of a list of choices. So we use choice box, but again though, so we need the column index, which will be 0, and then the row index, which is now going to be 4 because we moved down the line just 1. And then we're going to do a column span of 1 here. We may not need that, but we're going to do that. Go ahead for right now. So now we have this choice box. We need to put items in the choice box, and to do that, we just use the items element here, and that allows us to put in a list of collections. So we're going to use FX collections and give it an FX factory of an observable array list, which is right here. I've tried messing around with some of these other ones, and you get some errors and things just don't work out properly. So I'm going to be using the observable array list from my FX collections, and then pass it this array list. And basically, I'm building my array list within this right here. So I'm going to have a bunch of strings. This could be like integer or something like that, but I'm going to do strings. So alt enter. I need to import my string. Import the string up here, right here, and then pass it the value. So for the passing of the value, we're going to do fx colon value, similar to the fx colon factory up there. And let's see, just put some different animals here. Cat, dog, fish, snail. Snail's a great animal, right? All right, and then if we want to, after the items, if we want to have it default to a certain value, we can use the value element and then set whatever value that we want here that corresponds to these as well. So let's put snail. And let's go ahead and run this. And you'll notice here it says, what is your favorite animal? And we've got snail, which is already selected. We've got fish, dog, cat, and that's it. So if you were to put something like misspelled it, like just put SL or something, and ran this, so you wouldn't have that same behavior because that's not within the observable array list that we've created for our favorite animals. So let's go ahead and undo that. And that is a choice box. Pretty simple. All right, so the next part we're going to do a combo box. I'm sorry if you guys can hear my squeaky chair. It's being extra squeaky today. So we're going to do the label. I don't have anything really all that great. Let's see, I can do second favorite animal. And then again though, we still need our column index, which is this one. We're going to do 1 because we're just going to keep it on the same row, but we're going to change the columns. So the row index for this one is going to be 3 for the label. And then for the combo box, we're going to set the column index again to 1. And the row index is going to be 4. Oh. And just like the choice box, we can set our items. And we're going to use the FX collections, FX factory observable array list again. And then we will pass it some more string values. We'll do FX value, we'll do dolphin. Dolphin, shark, whale, and crab. Oop. There we go. And again, super simple to set a default item. We just do value, the value attribute, and we pass it the string of whichever one we want. We'll do a whale, because whales are pretty cool. And go ahead and run this. Listen again, our whale is selected. And you notice, as I said, it's a different, a little bit different, the combo box to the choice box. They still can't select, more than one on either one of these. All right. And sometimes you can change these combo boxes to make them editable. So if you took editable equals true and ran that again, you'd be able to come in here and actually type in some stuff here and then send that to or send that data to wherever the rest of the data is going. You may want that, and usually you don't. So I'm gonna go ahead and erase that for now because I don't want that as far as in mine. All right, so now that's done with the combo box. All right, so the next bit, we're gonna create another label. There's a lot of labels here. We're going to text. We're gonna get a password from the user. I'm not gonna do any kind of like confirm your password or anything like that. I just want to show you that you guys can actually get a there's a password field specifically that you can use that works a lot like the text area, except for it hides the data that the user is inputting. So again, though, we need our column index of 0 and then our row index of 5 because we're moving down the line here. And then we're going to use a password field, which we then, like I said, also have to give our column index and our row index. So we go ahead and run this again real fast. And we can come down here to the password, and whatever we type in, it gets hidden by these dots there, which is exactly the what we wanted. And instead of keeping that down there, though, I'm going to move it up to be in line with the other ones, and we'll just have 3 per line. Run that again just to make sure that's looking okay, and it is. All right. So we have a lot of stuff so far, and we've been going pretty fast, but we just have a few more to go, and so hopefully you guys are learning quite a bit, and you'll be able to come back to this and just for reference whenever you're creating any kind of forms and stuff like that. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is create a text area. It's just a larger area for more characters to be typed rather than a text field that we've created so far. So we're going to do another label, We're going to do text. I'm just going to say describe yourself. And again, grid pane, column index, we'll do a 0. And grid pane row index, this will be 5. And then we're also going to do a column span, which will be, we're going to span all 3 columns. And then here we're going to do text area is what we're going to select. And then again, column index, 0. Row index, 6. And column span 3, and we can actually go ahead and get rid of column span here. That actually doesn't need a column span. Alright, run this real quick. Everything should still be working. Yep, here we go. You describe yourself. Good, good, good. Alright, so far so good. Let's continue on. We're going to do sliders, spinners, radio buttons, and checkboxes next. So let's go ahead and start with a slider. Label, text would be something like, how happy are you with our service? And if you guys are happy with my service, I know this is a great cut through to that. Please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me how what I'm doing good. Tell me what I'm doing bad. Tell me how I can help you guys learn a bit faster. Learn whatever it is that you guys are trying to work on right now. Just anything Java, JavaFX, web development, any type of that stuff is what I focus in, and I believe I can provide some value to you guys. All right, so. I said row index, we're going to set that to, see, we got a row index of 5, so this one would be 6. And then, like I said, we're going to create a slider, and we can do a grid pane column index of 0 and a row index of 7. Now with the slider, we have a few other things that we can implement, because we're basically sliding a value back and forth across a line chart, if you're familiar with those. So we can set our ticks, we can set our min and max values, that kind of stuff. So the first thing though we're going to do is snap to ticks, and you don't have to set this, but I like it in this particular one that we're doing. And we're going to set our minimum and maximum values, min, max equals 5, and we're going to go ahead and run it. We're not quite done with this slider just yet. Just want to show you guys an incomplete version. Oh, that's actually kind of weird how that's lined up right there. But so we have this slider that, because we have snap to ticks, it's just sliding to like the very ends, and we don't necessarily want that. I need to see, oh, okay, I see why the row index. This needs to be 7, and this needs to be 8. There we go. Alright, so now we want to actually be able to select something between our values and show what our values actually mean, right? So what we're going to do is go on down to the next line, and we're going to do show tick marks, make that true, and show tick labels, and make that true as well. But we're not quite done yet, so we're going to set our minor tick count to 1 and our major tick count to 1 as well. And you could set these like 1, 5, 10, 50, just depends on like how many values you have and how many different tick marks that you want to display to the user. So we can go ahead and run this now. And now you see we have tick marks between each half of the numbers and at each whole number. So I can come here and select half, 1, all the way up to 5, and get a value sent back to us in with our data whenever we're collecting it from the user. All right, so that is a slider, pretty simple. Again, another label. And this time we're going to be what's called a spinner. It allows you to select a value from more of like a standard input, a numerical value. So when you label, you text, what is your lucky number? Get column index. We're actually going to set this to 1 and row index of 7, and set our spinner. Again, column index, row index, and we have another min-max values here. We don't have as many attributes as we said we had in the slider, but we do have min and max here that we can use. All right, run that. I know I appreciate you guys bearing with me. This video is getting a bit longer than I anticipated, but we just have a few more to bust through, and you guys have learned, like I said, how to at least create a form in a view, and we'll have, like I said, this will be a 3-part series, and we'll have more to come soon. But we says, what is your lucky number? So you can select all the way from 0 to 100, and you can't actually type in here. So you have to definitely use this right there, unless maybe you can do editable and make that true. Let's run that to see if that makes any kind of a difference. I've actually never tested that before. Yeah, you can. But then you might be able, oh, and then it changes up to the highest value. So that's pretty nice. I think I like that. I'm going to keep that as editable true in that particular regard. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is create a radio button. Maybe we want to get the user's gender for some reason. So let's go ahead and move on down to the next line. So do column index of 0 and then a row index, what are we on now? 9. Okay. And now with the gender, with a radio button, we'll just do the radio button element and give it some text. We'll have male, and then again we gotta give it a grid pane, column index of 0 and a row index of 10. And we're gonna create 3 of these and do female and undisclosed, and we're going to change our column here to 1, 2, keep the same row, and we're going to go ahead and run this. And you'll see that whenever we run this, we're going to be able to select all of the radio buttons, and that's not necessarily what we want, right? So we can just go ahead and select all 3 of those. But with radio buttons, you can only select 1 at a time. So in order to do that, we need to figure out which one, or figure out how to determine which one's actually been selected and make sure the other ones are unselected. And it's actually pretty easy. FXML allows us to do FX define. It's too many FXs there. And we can define what's called a toggle group with an FX ID, and we're going to call it gender toggle. And then now that we define our toggle group, we're going to come in here to each one of our radio buttons, and we're going to give it a toggle group. And we're going to use the $sign here to tell JavaFX that we have this FX ID that it needs to look at. So this is associated with this $sign right here, and the FX ID that we're telling it to look for is the gender toggle. So I'm going to go ahead and just copy and paste this. There we go. And then now we should have a radio button that allows us to select one at a time. There we go. That is working nicely. Without having to, or without selecting multiple. All right, so the last thing I wanted to do is the checkbox. Maybe tax, excuse me. Subscribe for some cool stuff. And again, column index. We'll do 0 and a row index of 11. And that's actually it for that one. Move this on screen here. And we can select this right here, subscribe for some cool stuff. So I'm going to make this actually just a smidge taller at 700 pixels. And I'm going to do the very last thing, which is add a H-box. Give it alignment of center right. Preferred height of 50 pixels. A spacing between my values, or between the buttons that I'm going to put in there, of 10. Still need a column index of 0 and a row index of 12. Alright, now in this we're going to add just a couple of buttons. A submit button and a cancel button. And then should work. Oh, didn't quite work as I wanted it to. I wanted these to be over here. So in order to fix that, that's pretty simple. I'm just going to come right here, and then under, I'm going to do a column span and make that span across all of the columns that I have, which is 3. And that is working nicely. Push that over here to the right. So guys, that is a form with a bunch of different input values that you can do. Like I said, hopefully you guys have learned something in this video. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. Tell me if I'm doing good, if I'm doing bad, however it is. So whatever it is that I'm doing, however I can help you guys, let me know. Listen, that's what I really, that's what I come here to do. I want to teach, help, do whatever it is that I can. Like I said, but this is the first part of a probably going to be a 3-part series. The next part is just going to be getting the data, and then the next video after that is going to be actually validating the inputs. So stay tuned for those. They'll be coming out shortly, within, like I said, probably about a week or 2 or so. I would imagine those will be out hopefully sooner than that. But with everything going on, so you just never know these days. All right, but you guys, hope you all have an amazing day. Y'all are staying safe, and y'all are just awesome. So I really appreciate the support that y'all have been giving me so far, and you guys take care. Peace.